Hi guys, so I'm back with another poem, and this one is called Wind by AK Ramanujan. So, AK Ramanujan was born in March 1929. He was an Indian poet and a scholar of English literature. He wrote both in English and Kannada. He had many feathers in his cap. He was a scholar, a poet, a folklorist, a translator, and he was also awarded the Indian Sahitya Award in 1999. That was after his death. So let's see what he's trying to convey in this short and beautiful poem about the wind. From the title of the poem, the poet definitely wants us to think about the power of wind on nature and humans. He wants us to think about what is the wind symbolic of. He probably even wants us to be inspired by the qualities and strengths of the wind. Let's look at the first stanza. Wind comes softly. Don't break the shutters of the windows. Don't scatter the papers. Don't throw down the books on the shelf. There, look what you did. You threw them all down. You tore the pages of the books. You brought rain again. You're very clever at poking fun at weaklings. So, in the first stanza, the poet addresses the wind directly and it requests the wind to come softly. It requests the wind not to create any chaos in the form of, breaking the shutters of the windows or creating a mess out of his bookshelf and scattering the papers. And we see there's a sense of urgency or desperation in this request as he repeatedly uses the word don't. But the wind does not listen to the request, and it is incorrigible and stubborn. The poet, of course, is quick to point out the mess that the wind has created. And he tells the wind that you threw down all the books from the shelf, you tore all the papers with your force, with your might, and you also brought the rain by tearing through the clouds and using your force. In the last line, we see that the poet accuses the wind of mocking the weak and using its force against the weak. Well, literally, yes, the wind, can create a mess in your lives by, breaking the windows and creating a mess on your bookshelf. But metaphorically, the wind here symbolizes the challenges and trials that we face in life. And if we don't stand tall and brace ourselves against these strong winds of life, then definitely we will fall weak. And let's look at the poetic devices. Now, in this stanza, the poet has cleverly used a literary device, apostrophe, to address the wind and to have a conversation with the wind. Now, apostrophe as a literary device is when a speaker addresses an inanimate object or an abstract object like death or the sun or the wind here in this poem. The wind, of course, has been personified as a person, and we have evidence that it is incorrigible, it is stubborn. The poet has used repetition. He repeats the word don't in order to show his sense of urgency. He also repeats the pronoun you to emphasize on the destruction caused by the wind. Let's move on to the second stanza. Frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. The wind god winnows and crushes them all. So, in this stanza, the poet demonstrates the power of this force of nature called wind. Everything falls weak in front of its force. We have houses that are destroyed, we have doors that are broken, we have rafters or wooden beams of the house which are absolutely split apart. The destruction and the chaos involves wood and people who are injured in the forms of crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, and their livelihoods are destroyed. Crumbling hearts is metaphorical of people who fall weak in front of the wind and fall weak in front of the challenges and trials of life. The poet here addresses the wind as the wind god that winnows, that separates the weak from the strong. So winnows is a process when you harvest the wheat in the field, and then you separate the wheat from the chaff. The chaff is the part of the wheat that you don't need. And similarly, here the wind, with its trials of life, with its force, with the challenges of life, it separates the weak from the strong. So the wind symbolizes adversities in life, and we need to stand strong, brace ourselves. And it's happening right now. We have this strong wind of pandemic attacking the entire globe. We can't allow the strong wind of pandemic to defeat us and to crumble us and to create that chaos in our lives. Let's look at the poetic devices in this stanza. The poet has repeated the word crumbling, so he's used repetition, and that is, of course, to bring out the power and the force of the wind. And wind itself is symbolic of the challenges in life, the adversities that we face in life. The poet has used alliteration. There is the use of consonants in wind, guard, winnows. Of course, it adds to the auditory imagery. It sounds great to the ears and also emphasizes on the power of the wind god. Moving on to the third stanza. He won't do what you tell him. So, come, let's build strong homes. Let's joint the doors firmly. Practice to firm the body. Make the heart steadfast. Do this, and the wind will be friends with us. In this stanza, the poet once again personifies the wind to remind us that it is stubborn, it is adamant, it is incorrigible. So instead of appeasing and pacifying the wind gods, we need to brace ourselves and prepare ourselves for the chaos it might create in our lives. So, in order to brace ourselves to face the strong winds of life, we need to build strong homes, or we need to strengthen our characters. We need to mentally prepare ourselves to face the trials of life. We need to join the doors firmly, or we need to be firm in our spirit, body, and mind to face the challenges of life. So, yes, physically, we need to strengthen our homes, strengthen ourselves to face the strong winds. And figuratively, we need to strengthen our minds, our bodies. So, once we befriend the wind, or we befriend our challenges and trials in life, and we change our perspective towards these trials and challenges in life, things will become easier for us, and the wind will be friends with us, or these challenges and trials will seem easier for us to cruise through. Let's look at the poetic devices in this stanza. Of course, the wind is symbolic of adversities in our lives, or the challenges that we face in our lives. Strong homes, joint doors are all metaphorical of having a strong and steadfast character. Let's look at the last stanza. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. His friendship is good. We praise him every day. So, once again, we are reminded that strong winds will destroy the weak fires, that the harsh challenges of life will destroy the mentally weak. But if your fire is strong, then the wind will only strengthen you further. If you brace yourself for the challenges of life, you are mentally prepared, then these strong winds will just chisel your character and bring out the best in you. And that's the reason the poet says his friendship is good. It's important to have these trials in life. If life is smooth and hunky dory, then you just cruise through life. But when you face adversities and you face challenges, then it builds your character. So, even though the poet points out in the previous stanza that the wind is incorrigible, it is adamant, it has a mind of its own, it creates this chaos, but we praise him every day. We praise him for being forceful in our lives, for creating that chaos so that we learn to organize and face that chaos. Let's look at the poetic devices in this stanza. Of course, the wind has been personified. The poet has used the pronoun he for the wind to have a conversation and to bring out its strong character. He's used onomatopoeia by using the word roar for fire. which of course adds to the auditory imagery and brings out the positive effect of the wind or challenges in our life. So I think it's important to have a little bit of wind and sometimes strong winds in our life to explore our inner strength and to recognize, our true metal. And no one is spared from a good gust of wind in their lives. Everyone has to face trials and tribulations. So we need to be mentally prepared, brace ourselves, and befriend those trials and tribulations. Um, it's a beautiful poem, and I hope you enjoyed the explanation. And I'll see you next time with another beautiful poem. Till then, study hard, be good, and bye.